Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first kind of weekly outlook. Now, this serves as a way for me to share my high-level thoughts on the market, as well as share any plays that you can focus on throughout the week. And I'll give you my exact plays as well, of course. Now, this will be, hopefully, first of many. The only thing I asked that you do not expect is that this is very, very planned. Just going to really hop from one chart to the next and share thoughts as we go. So without any further ado, let's dive into Bitcoin first. Before we even start off on a higher time frame, it's first important to understand that where we are currently in terms of timing. So for the past 3 months, we've had, well, summer, and everyone took time off. Crypto markets really took a shit. In general, it was very low liquidity, low action, very boring markets. Right now is the start of the second week of September. This is very important because there is a saying amongst the Europeans and the Americans. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something that's very much not present in Asia. According to many Europeans and Americans, the new year actually starts, on September. After you come back from summer, refreshed, you're feeling good, and the market makers are all back in the game now. Today is the official start of a new game, essentially. Expect volume to come back. Congratulations if you've survived the past 6 months of basically retracement, but the game starts now. And if you're still in the game, great. If you have capital lying around, even better, because I think this is going to be the start of a huge run-up that, is going to be a lot like 2021. Taking a look at the monthly, just as a high-level overview, I don't expect the year to close out, within this zone here. What do I mean by that? So this was the official, yearly open, and this is the true yearly open. Sorry, this right here is the true yearly open, as you can see on that orange line there. So there is a difference between the, official, on paper yearly open. We are currently nowhere close to hitting 40K. I highly doubt that we're going to hit 40K. This will only happen if you're bearish on the year, right? And right now, nobody and their mother and their grandmother is bearish on the year for the rest of Q4. In fact, if anything, Q4 is projected to be very bullish. And if that is the case, then this is where it gets really interesting, because according to quarterly theory by day, if you are bullish on something, you want to buy below the true open, not the official on paper open, but the true open. You see this across, every time frame. For example, you can see this play out even, on a shorter time frame. True open for the day actually starts in London, because that is the second quarter of today. The first quarter being Asia, second quarter London, third quarter New York morning, fourth quarter New York afternoon. You can see that, as the day opens, right? All the price action before is just, really choppy. But then if you're bullish for the day, you buy anywhere below the true open. Of course, add some confluences to this, such as liquidity, fair value gaps, premium discount, whatever. But once you have that, look, price even comes back to find support on the true daily open. And you can even apply this to sessions, meaning the true London open, right? If you're bullish on London, for example, right here is your true London open, buy below the true London open, and boom, this is how you refine your entry even more. But going back to the higher time frame, right now that we have spent the entirety of the year after the true yearly open below the open, essentially. And this is a really good sign if you are bullish, because it states that any price around this area is going to be a great price to buy heading into the expansion after the true yearly open. And so the way the year is probably going to close out, in fact, probably even do this. This is the yearly candle. Very unlikely that you return back to the open. Very likely that you expand either back to, to try to create a new high, or even just any expansion whatsoever. 20-30% is still going to be great. Don't get me wrong. Very unlikely to happen that throughout the entirety of Q4 you're just going to pump 20%, but you get the idea. So this is currently what we're looking at in terms of the higher time frame. So taking a look at what we should expect from Bitcoin on the lower time frames, well, given the fact that you have swept this level, which I've been calling for, not on Discord, but mainly on inner circle calls, as well as YouTube videos and Twitter. But otherwise, this level has been hit already. The only other realistic level that you can hit is back at 50K. Again, not super likely to happen, just because you did see excess. It's like an order flow sort of term. You had a really strong reaction after sweeping the liquidity here, so that's a really good sign that the market is unlikely to return back to these levels, because you're gonna have a lot of trapped sellers here. Again, there's no reason to go down there and let them get out. In terms of Bitcoin, currently you're also at the range low, so all of this just adds up to, I've been saying this for a couple months now, this is not a time where you want to be selling. This is the time where you want to be buying on the macro. Yes, you're going to stomach 30-50% drops, likely to be 50% from this point onwards, but you're going to have to stomach some drops in order to reap the 5, 10, 20x benefits. I think that's about to happen. That's all for Bitcoin. I think the interesting part is getting into the weekly outlook on altcoins. First one that I want to draw your attention to is AAVE. This has been a sleeper top performer since July. Even throughout the entire dip, it did not really dip that much, primarily because it's already down pretty much 99% from its all-time high. It definitely did drop about 97 or 98%. AAVE is already really down, and that's not to mention the fact that it's been down since, or rather, the entirety of DeFi started its bear market a lot earlier than, the rest of crypto. As everything was still, taking off, you can see that very much since May, AAVE has been, dropping. May of 2021, by the way. And it has never quite recovered. And right now, it has just started to break out. It's 861 days where it's been staying in a range between $40 and $100, or like $120. Same. You know how the saying goes, right? The longer the accumulation, the more explosive the movement afterwards becomes. Currently, you have a lot of just free liquidity lying on top of AAVE, and at a very relatively low resistance compared to many of the other charts out there. Right now, the first stop for AAVE is pretty much $260, which is a 2 to 3x from this point onwards. And after this, do expect some kind of, short tracement. But then afterwards, it's going to be a low resistance liquidity run from $300 basically to $450. All in all, you're looking at a potential, 4-5x or maybe even more, depending on how much mindshare this gathers. So far, there are a lot of, smart crypto people that are already, in this train and are actively talking about it. So my hopes for AAVE is high. I do think that AAVE remains to be one of my top 5 highest conviction coins in the rest of 2024. In terms of entries, look for liquidity sweeps during trend, and of course look for retracements. You guys should have already known this, so not going to get too much into that. And when I say conviction, by the way, I'm talking about plays that are, already proven, some plays that are relatively high market cap, and stuff that you can put a lot of money behind. Now, you're not going to expect like a 25-50x just like you would with, for example, catching POPCAT early or catching WIF early, but these are higher market cap, very likely to play out, and just generally strong tokens that you can put money behind. We will talk about, higher risk plays later on, but AAVE, very high conviction, very solid, which also brings me on to arguably my highest conviction play. I do see a world where Solana overtakes ETH, given how much the narrative is shifting in Solana's favor, and it has been shifting in its favor. It's been a slow little creep for like the last 3 to 4 years, where people, Solana is the ETH killer, and it is true, because in basically every regard of the network and its performance, Solana is way better than Ethereum, right? That's the paper metrics. Then you have the amount of mindshare that you have from your participants in crypto Twitter. And for example, the majority of the meme coins that have been outperforming the markets during this run have came from Solana. And I expect this to continue, right? They're not going anywhere. WIF is not going anywhere. POPCAT's not going anywhere. And a bunch of the other shitcoins are not going anywhere. I think this is the year where we can see Solana make a real push to overtake Ethereum in, the king of the layer ones kind of race. And in terms of Solana, just make sure you pick some up here. Between 130 and 120 was the level that I've been calling for on Discord. We have hit that. If you're not, still picking this up right now, you're making a big mistake. This is essentially a classic AMD. So accumulation, it's very likely to be a manipulation, and right here is going to be a distribution. But how far that distribution is going to go, I do expect Solana to have a pit stop at around $200. This is the true yearly open, and so it's going to be some kind of strong resistance level. Go for a little bit of a retrace before continuing the move. Otherwise, even if Solana were to end the year at $200, it would still place it in a really good spot for it to, pump by another, couple $100 in Q1 next year before pausing and going back for another retrace. This time a big one. But otherwise, Solana, the beautiful thing about Solana also is that it gives you so much flexibility to get into meme coins after, because you need Solana in the first place to get into a lot of the meme coins. And if you are trading meme coins, then having a spare couple hundred Solanas lying around is going to be highly beneficial to any sort of meme coin trading. Or if you just see some trend that pops up on Solana that you want to take advantage of, you can, right? You already have the Solana. It's as easy as swapping it. So that's Solana. Now we move on to POPCAT, which is probably my third to fourth highest conviction play. This thing is going to melt faces. It's throughout this entire dip, even though it has dropped by about 70%, the recovery that it has shown so far is market leading. There are very little tokens in the market outside of BNB that have been performing to the level of POPCAT. So if you haven't picked this up already, it's a really good place to pick it up. Anywhere around the 50-cent level is going to be great to pick up. Otherwise, you can wait also for a break above 60 cents. Essentially what you're looking for is break above 60 cents, retrace before the continuation. That is something you can look for as well. Zero, like that is arguably the higher the higher probability play. So that is also a smart move. But either way, do not sleep on POPCAT. This thing's going to melt faces like targets. You're definitely going to have a pit stop at the previous all-time high. It's the previous all-time high. Like, it makes sense. And then after that, just literally you can take profit at 50-cent increments, get in at 50 cents right now, looking at taking profit every 2x. And I think that's a good world to be. Now, I see POPCAT reaching about $2.50 after this, Q4, Q1 run. I do think that is highly likely. Could it go higher? I don't know. I haven't seen a precedent for a cat coin going above, $5 or $10 billion. But if POPCAT were to hit 2.5, I believe it would put POPCAT at around $2.5 billion. And yeah, it would put it around $2.5 billion. So I see POPCAT like ending this run at close to $5 billion. So that is the ultimate long-term target for it. But just in the next quarter, 2.5, or at least 1.5 to 2, highly likely. So POPCAT becomes the third highest conviction play. And since we talked about BNB for a moment, it's time to get into BNB. Now, BNB is also one of those really high conviction plays because the CZ is getting released at the end of this month, all in time for the start of Q4, all in time for the elections. The plays just adds up, and BNB is one of those coins that are one of the closest so far to its previous all-time high. I'm talking like, I know it's still a 40% dump, but relatively speaking, this is one of the only large caps that is still maintaining its strength just like Bitcoin is. And that is a really good sign to see that something has formed a very clear range. For example, you have a very clear range high deviation, go to the range low deviation, back to the high, and now you just got the low deviation. And right now you are in some kind of a retracement, forming some kind of a inverse heads and shoulders. And overall, like, I would even put this at my number 2 spot for just highest conviction in terms of September, potentially even the first, just because of how the narrative is heading up. Now, at its current price at $500, it's a great buy. Like, of course, if you go below this, even better. But right now, right here, don't be afraid to buy BNB. This is going to easily give you a 50% return throughout the month of September. This is very much a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event. Unless you're planning on holding on to BNB, then that's a different story. Otherwise, this is very much buy the start of September, sell at the end of September for 50%. Again, very high conviction, very high probability. The only thing that could get in the way of BNB's performance would be some kind of a major black swan event on Bitcoin where it dumps. God save you, because there is pretty much zero kind of support all the way until you hit, $350. You're not going to go there in one fell swoop, of course. You're going to have pauses. You potentially could even reverse and go back into an uptrend. But otherwise, this level here, very low risk, very high potential reward. So this just makes sense. And lastly, did I want to talk about anything else? I think WIF deserves its own little talk. First of all, I would still love to see this sell-side liquidity here at 1.3 get taken out. But otherwise, where WIF currently is at, I believe it's sitting at about $1.5 billion. Just to put it into perspective what Shiba did last cycle, Shiba hit a peak market cap of about $40 billion, right, with a beat. And WIF currently is at 1.5. This is huge contrast to what could potentially happen with WIF. And all I'm saying is that there is a lot of potential for WIF to hit, $10, $20, $40 even. And WIF remains, until today, the highest conviction, up and coming dark token that exists. And it's pretty much the poster child for a lot of the gains that people have been making throughout the cycle. When I called this in the Discord, it was like 9 months ago at the beginning of the year when WIF was at like 250 million, right? With an M dollars market cap. Right now is probably one of the best prices that you're going to ever get WIF at. Ideally, 1.3 to 1.2 is going to be the ideal level. Whether we get that or not, it remains a different story. Of course, if price just starts breaking out here, remember to just momentum trade. Otherwise, like, people were complaining about not being able to get into WIF at really high prices here. People still complaining here. People refused to buy WIF here because they thought meme coins was going to zero. Now I'm telling you, like, this is where WIF's mindshare is probably at its lowest point since the start of this bull run. If you missed out on Doge and you missed out on Shiba, I missed out on Shiba. Don't worry, I did catch Doge though. WIF is probably your best bet to getting there. Assuming POPCAT outperforms, it doesn't make sense why WIF would not outperform. Heck, WIF is currently 3 times the market cap of POPCAT, but still remains one of the highest conviction plays for the rest of Q4 and even entering into Q1. Hope this video is helpful, guys. Hope you enjoy it. And yeah, see you in the next one.